Firstly, I want to welcome you all today to our webinar, and the topic is very interesting. It's an intriguing question that most of us may not have asked. Why were we born on Earth and nowhere else? After all, the universe is filled with life-hosting bodies, and so for us, why Earth? There's so many options. So before we go into this question, because it's actually quite revealing, the answers, let's start with two basic premises and get them out of the way. Number one, why are we here? And we have all been very familiar with the cycle of life, which I have shared with you in many different contexts, which is the origin or the creator is light. Light brings us life. Life brings us experience. Experience brings knowledge. And knowledge is light. And that is the full circle, and that describes why we're here. And in other webinars, we've discussed this in greater length. Hence, let's start with accepting the first premise that we are all here in this world for a short period of time to enjoy the journey, gain experience, and derive knowledge from our experiences, for knowledge is light. So the purpose of our journey here, to gain knowledge and light, and to thoroughly enjoy every moment. So we get that premise out of the way. We all agree on that. The second is that we can all accept that the Earth has all the life-hosting features that can sustain our biological bodies, as well as our mental and emotional faculties. So we can take this as a given as well. And when we talk about today in the webinar other life-hosting cosmic bodies, we can assume the same to be true, that they are able to host life. So these are the two premises that we all agree on. And with that in mind, let's come to the question, why Earth? To help us go deeper into this introspective journey, our dear metaphorical angel friends Cyrus and Luminous are going to join us, because they can see things from the big picture all the way down to the intricate minutiae. They are looking at it from above, we are looking at it from within. So very useful insights we can get from them. So I say to them, thank you for being with us today, and welcome them both. And they also respond, it's their pleasure to be with us as always. And I start by asking the question that we would appreciate your insights today on why the Earth was chosen to be our home over all the countless life-hosting bodies in the universe. Why the Earth? And Luminous laughs and replies, are you sure you're ready to hear what I have to say? And I said, some of what we are going to disclose to you is not so complimentary. That's fine, I say. We would appreciate a clear, transparent, and brutally honest set of answers to our questions. So we have all left our egos behind and are ready to eat humble pie if it comes our way. Cyrus laughed and said, humble pie? Heavens no. We're going to focus on both sides of the coin, negative and positive, so you need not worry. So we think your question is an excellent one, because it forces you to take a deep introspective look at humanity, human nature, and its complex dynamics, to recognize why the Earth represents your best home and nowhere else. So right off the bat, he said we would like to also say that you are correct in assuming that the universe is filled with endless life-hosting bodies like your Earth, where beings different to you exist and thrive, some more advanced than you and others less so. So indeed, your Earth is not the only place where intelligent life exists. It would be very arrogant for anyone to assume that. So today we are going to explore how your positive and negative human traits influence the role that the Earth has to play in order to sustain you all, as well as sustain the rest of creation. Okay, So let us examine some unique aspects of what the earth offers to you, Cyrus says. Firstly, he says it gives you a physical three-dimensional world to live in. Everything in your world is based on three dimensions: length, width, and height. Your eyes can only see in three dimensions. Your minds can only think in three dimensions. Even your imagination is limited to three dimensions. So the earth provides you a simple three-dimensional so-called reality, within which you can explore life, derive experience, and gain knowledge. And within these three dimensions, the earth enables each individual to construct his or her own little world or bubble within which to think, experience, and process your learning. So at an individual level, the earth allows us to have our own private space, as you call it. It also allows you to build a collective world for the whole of humanity, within which you experience life as a member of a greater human society, driven or governed by what you call the mass consciousness. These are very unique aspects of the earth that facilitate your lives. Cyrus says, imagine if telepathy were the norm in this world, none of you would have any private space. So bearing in mind what will serve you best, the earth has prepared the perfect learning ground for you all to grow and develop as individuals and as a human society. So why three dimensions? I asked Cyrus. Luminous smiles and responds, because you human beings are of a primitive nature. You are all basically primitive. The best your faculties can handle is three dimensions. How is that so? I ask. Let me respond with an analogy, Luminous replies. Let us say that you are a student and your goal is to learn a very advanced form of quantum physics, very complex form of quantum physics. But today, you are at kindergarten stage. And therefore you are unable to even start to appreciate quantum physics. You would instantly be lost. So you're starting at kindergarten. Now the earth allows you to start at kindergarten and lets you grow up in learning until you get to know physics at high school. But you're still not ready for quantum physics. And by now, your time here is up. Next, you manifest in another world with, say, 4 dimensions, where you learn to grow till you understand college-level physics of this unique nature. Then your time is up again, so you have to go. Next, you manifest in a 6-dimensional world, where you can now fully comprehend this very complex form of quantum physics that goes in all directions. In fact, you can master it and then go higher. So how is this? So this is how the dimensions of the earth work. At your primitive stage, 3 dimensions is the best you can do. If you were to build a rocket that takes you to another cosmic home that hosts beings in a 4-dimensional reality, what do you think would happen? You would not see a thing when you get there, because your eyes can only comprehend up to 3 dimensions. So you would get there and conclude that there was no life present on that planet. And you would be wrong, because you were in fact in a 4-dimensional world. This is why when we see your great human space endeavors, we worry about you a little bit, because we think you will miss many things and many life forms because of your 3-dimensional limitations. But great, keep exploring. But remember that you may often come back empty-handed when actually there was something there that you could not see. Bearing this in mind, our advice to you is to make the most of the learning that you can derive from this 3-dimensional earth that is perfectly tailored to match your capacities. You can grow here and prepare for higher worlds and their experiences next. Cyrus's words were a sobering revelation for me. Here I was, believing that we humans are at the top of the pyramid when it comes to intelligent life. Apparently not so. I asked Cyrus, so are there creatures out there less advanced than us? Of course, Cyrus replies. There are those that can only survive in a one-dimensional world and some in 2 dimensions. If they came into the 3-dimensional world, they would not see a thing, nor experience anything. Lumina says, look at a worm, such a basic creation that crawls in your 3-dimensional world. You can all agree that it is unevolved compared to you, right? I go, yes, right? Likewise, you would be like worms compared to your more evolved counterparts in the universe. Okay, I could now see what Luminous meant when he said we may not like what they may have to tell us. We just got compared to worms. Fair enough. In my pursuit to discover some positive brownie points for humanity, I asked Luminous, so how does our art and science and their evolution feature in where we stand today as an intelligent human society? Luminous replies, well, your science taps into pure logical creativity, and this takes you many steps forward in enhancing your quality of life in this world. You're all enjoying the fruits of your technological evolution, aren't you? But they are still at a very early stage, Cyrus says. Lumina says, since you mentioned art, let us look at your art. Let us look at how that has evolved. It started by human beings simply reproducing the works of Mother Nature as perceived through their eyes. So at the beginning, the technical aspects of art were based on copying what you saw, and those of you that copied well became rich and famous. Now tell me, how is that different to a child with crayons copying what he or she sees? Very basic, right? I said, yes, I have to agree. He said, then came the age of Impressionism, which added more character to technical art, from colors to light distribution, brush strokes, depth, and more. This was a step forward. Of course, then your art evolved even further, and now you have what is called abstract art. Some of your artists claim that it comes from tapping into the higher levels of your nature. I would say maybe yes, maybe no, Luminous said. Tell me honestly, Luminous asks, do you really understand every piece of abstract art that you see? No, I replied, I don't. Much of it does not make sense to me, but then I remind myself that, much as I love art, I am a scientist, and I may not be able to see what these enlightened artists see. So I accept that. You are right and you are wrong, Luminous says. Yes and no. He said, have you heard the story of the king who decided to walk through his city completely naked one day? Everyone feared him, and when he asked any of his citizens, how do you like my fine robes? They instantly replied, wow, these are the most beautiful robes we have ever seen. And the king was enjoying this experience until he walked past the veranda of a little cottage where there was a 7-year-old boy playing. He looks at the king and says, Mommy, the king is walking around naked. The king stopped and glared at the boy and said, I am not naked. Don't you see my fine robes? No, replied the innocent boy, you have no robes, and you are completely naked, and I see that little thing over there. It looks very strange. The parents of the child were flabbergasted. They rushed out and pleaded with the king to forgive their innocent little child. Suddenly, the king burst out laughing and said, of course I am naked. But it took this little boy with no fear to tell me the truth. When he grows up, He must come and work in the palace and grow into the wise counsel for my princes and princesses. Luminous looks at me and asks, abstract art, fine robes, or naked king? Who knows? Cyrus interjects and says, while Luminous's arguments are correct, let me say there is much more to abstract art actually. From color deposition to texture to energy to spirit and often a sense of inspiration. So there is some depth to abstract art when you look at it that way. It is definitely an evolutionary step forward, I would say, Cyrus says. But I do agree with Luminous. It is all still at quite a rudimentary stage. Well, while that light-hearted exchange told me that we are at the early stages of our evolution as beings based on the potential we have, which includes all our senses and all our mental faculties. And thank God for the three-dimensional world. I love it. But now, I feel a lot more humble about humanity than I did a few minutes ago. I asked Cyrus, can you explain to us what you mean when you call our human nature primitive? Explain. Cyrus replied, your primitive nature comes from your animal nature. You all have an animal nature. Now, what do you mean by animal nature, I ask. Cyrus replies, no matter how civilized you would like to think you are not, because of your animal nature. And your purpose here is to learn to transcend this animal nature and discover your higher nature. Now, what does the animal nature include? You ask the question. It includes your ego that makes you live within illusions of power that do not really exist. There is no such thing as power. It's an illusion. Your insatiable desire for control over everything, even though you cannot control what is going to happen the next second from now. Despite knowing this, you still live with the illusion of control. Your endless greed and need to amass more for yourself, even though you can see that the earth has clearly laid out abundance for all of you. Instead of appreciating this abundance and partaking of what you need, you seek to amass it all for yourself, leaving your fellow beings poor and hungry. Great polarization of wealth in your world. I mean, how naive can you be? Cyrus asks. There is an ocean before you, and you are a little droplet, and you still try to put the ocean in your little pockets. What happens? You drown. It doesn't take a genius to recognize that. But to be fair to you, a primitive animal nature is blind to these realities. So I'm not saying it's your fault, I'm saying it's your challenge to overcome. Next, he said, you embody highly destructive traits. There are too many for me to list here, but a few that immediately come to my mind are hatred, anger, revenge, envy, willful neglect, and betrayal, for example. These traits are innate in your animal nature, and they can get expressed in an instant when the right buttons are pressed. Even the best of you. Cyrus continued, did you know that the human being is one of the most destructive creations that ever inhabited these planets? Humans could win the award for being one of the most destructive species across many parts of the universe. This comes from your animal nature. Luminous adds, look at the state of any part of Earth after human inhabitation has occurred. Look at what was before and then look at after. Large holes dug in the ground for building stone and minerals and metals and materials, mountains being ripped out for access to their minerals or creating space where more wealth can be created. It even happens in the most sacred places on earth, which thrived in a pristine manner at one time for centuries. Today these mountains are gone and concrete forests exist everywhere. And I could understand what you were saying because I've been to certain sacred places 25 years, 30 years ago, and today all I see is real estate there, and that sacred spot is just surrounded. So he says, look at your air quality and your water quality, all contaminated. So he says, your animal nature can sometimes be characterized as parasitic. For each beautiful improvement of nature by humans, there are 100 destroyed ones. Lumina says, let me tell you something quite interesting that maybe you didn't know. He looks at me and says, in 1995, when you were writing your first book, you talked about the planet of Mars and how there was an advanced civilization like humans that thrived on this planet. You even talked about water being present on Mars. This was 30 years ago, and today Mars expeditions are confirming yet, yes, there is water, and there are signatures that show that life did once exist on Mars. He said, now let me tell you what happened there. He said, these beings who were a more civilized, advanced civilization than you, also had an animal nature, albeit that transcended most of it, in all aspects of their thinking and living, except for the ego of a minority few. Ego of a minority few, very few, but it was there. He said, just like you have artificial intelligence today on the rise, doing amazing, creative, and destructive things, so did they. And their artificial intelligence was way more advanced. But he says, you have no laws governing your artificial intelligence in your present world, do you? And he said, this will cost you dearly. Unfortunately, you are not capable of coming up with real unified laws because the respect for law doesn't exist in your psyche. However well you try to mask it, you are a lawless society with laws only applicable to the weak, poor, and disadvantaged. This is the brutal reality about your civilization. So for a society with so much potential, this is a very sad juncture to find yourselves at. Cyrus says, take a look at what's happening around you every day. Violation of every law of a civilized society occurring in front of your eyes, and no one does anything about it. So we predict you will find it very difficult to come up with real, effective, unified international laws that govern artificial intelligence because of your corrupted nature where power and influence are concerned. Every country or interest bloc or financial bloc will try to tilt the laws in their favor, and worse still, violate it at the first inconvenient occurrence. However, by contrast, these Martians had well-defined laws that governed science and all its developments. And this is how they reached a stage where they could actually create new life. They had gone that far in their science. And this is an amazing feat for a society that still had the remnants of an animal nature. Then one of their most famous and respected scientists, who was unfortunately egoistic, he was amongst that minority few, decided he was above the law. He created new organisms that he thought would enable Martian civilization to create new atmospheres in uninhabitable planets close to Mars. So he had a vision for Martian life expanding. And he said this would allow Martians to expand their presence in the cosmos. Hence he ignored every law that was geared to ensure safety. His ego led to the production of organisms that multiplied instantaneously. And rather than create new atmospheres, they actually consumed the atmosphere of Mars. In a short while, all the protective layers of the planet were gone, and the rays of the sun basically incinerated the planet. Life in 3 dimensions on Mars, through that one single act of animal nature, ended. Today, Mars explorations also talk about the planet having been incinerated by the rays of the sun. So what I'm telling you is being corroborated by your new exploration. In conclusion, he said Mars did host life like yours, and it can host life again when a new atmosphere is created by beings who have evolved beyond your level. And these beings, it will surprise you to know, will come from the earth in the future. We strongly believe that. Cyrus stepped in and said, I agree, because there are some very positive aspects of your human psyche that can help you transcend your animal nature, and we will share those with you next. However, let us conclude our discussion of animal nature first with some final key points, because they are relevant to turning things around. Cyrus says, your history shows that no human civilization has ever prevailed permanently. Civilizations always rose and they fell with certainty. Why is that so? And what does that mean for your current civilization? Cyrus asked. So I said, what are the warning signs to watch for? I asked Cyrus. He replies, your primitive animal nature prevents you from building a civilization that is sustainable. You will build, grow, advance, and then destroy one another, and then destroy it all, as your history repeatedly confirms, and then you start again. So he said, it is essential for your humanity in this earth to break out of this cycle once and for all, and we will explain how in a few moments. So to answer your question, the warning signs before you today are very evident. What are they? Respect for ethics, law, and order is completely lost across the globe. You watch with complete impotence innocent people being killed with impunity every day. You witness ethnic cleansing in different parts of the world, theft of land and property across the board, mass destruction of homes of the innocent, destruction of forests and water resources, constant damage to your climate, and more. And all this happens while you all sit and watch, either totally indifferent or impotent, in both cases unable to stop any form of wrongdoing or injustice, whilst being fully aware that your moral, societal, and global laws are being violated right in front of your eyes. When the masses of a civilization reach such a level of impotency and moral bankruptcy, Cyrus says, the wheel of correction engages and it starts to turn. And what does it do? It diminishes the irreparable impotent society and replaces it with new beings who have a much higher level of consciousness and empathy and conviction towards truth and fairness and ethics compared to their parents' generations. Such beings have begun to be born in your world as of the last 20 years, and they continue to be born to this day, and more will come in the future. Cyrus says these new beings will be for you your next civilization that will place humanity on an upward trajectory, upward cycle once more, with higher intellectual and moral quality, and maybe this time they will not fall. And this time they will be able to go beyond the earth and create homes outside in life-hosting cosmic bodies. So that was quite a revelation, I thought. I said, can you tell us a bit more about this wheel of correction? I asked Cyrus. He said, it's very simple, really. Let's look at an analogy of medicine and cancer. He says, say a patient has cancer and it is spreading fast. What do doctors do? They use strong measures like radio and chemotherapy to destroy the cancer. And in many cases, they remove the irreparable cells surgically to help the patient survive and live a new chapter in his or her life. The wheel of correction is like the action of those doctors, he says, and it removes the cancerous consciousnesses from a human society, leaving behind the good and repairable ones. He said the wheel of correction is a lot more accurate in its action than chemotherapy, for example, which kills even the good cells. This wheel is very precise about what it removes and what it leaves behind to survive and thrive. And this is why your civilizations have risen and fallen. It's the wheel of correction. The earth has been here for billions and billions of years, and it will continue to prevail despite you. So it's not going anywhere, but civilizations are coming and going. My dear friends, do watch the video of the recent webinar, I think it was the last one, called The Soul Unveiled, where we discuss this whole concept in much greater detail from a spiritual perspective. So Luminous says, the beauty of this three-dimensional earth is that it gives you the forum to express and experience the impact of your animal nature and learn from it, thus allowing you to grow and transcend it and to reach the higher levels of your nature. And there are a lot more that are a lot more powerful than your animal nature. And why Earth? Because the Earth is endowed with powerful self-healing, self-correcting, and evolutionary capacities that enable it to recover from the damage you inflict upon it, whilst also making you physically and mentally evolve to adapt to all the changes your human interventions are causing to the earth and its environment. The earth fixes itself and it adapts you to survive in it, making it an extremely unique cosmic body. That is why it is your home. And when we talk about evolution, I mean, we all know how it works, but if you take a look back maybe, several thousands of years ago, our earlobes were very big. And today they are really small. Now, they were big when we lived in forests because we needed to hear, and that sense of hearing had to be very sharp for our survival. Today we don't need that. And so over time our earlobes have shrunk. So the earth is adapting us in all ways to fit in to the change in our environment. So Luminous concluded, he said, so the earth's powers of evolution, self-correction, and healing make it your perfect home, because not all equivalent places in the cosmos have this capability. And Luminous continued, we want you to realize that the earth is living and you are living in it, and this makes the earth very unique. I'll repeat that. He said the earth is living and you are living in it, and this makes it very unique. Cyrus then adds that there's one more powerful aspect of your three-dimensional world which is important to mention. It is a great tool of your world, in fact. And Cyrus says, and that is time. Time is not present in all cosmic life hosting bodies, he says, but it is very much a fundamental feature of your three-dimensional earth. Why, you may ask? He says, remember, the earth is very well suited to be home to a civilization with primitive animal nature, and it uses time as a form of governing you. Time is like the leash that you put on your pet dog when you go out for a walk with it, so that this leash prevents it from straying. Time is your leash, and it can be very long or very short. Without time, your world and the earth would be in complete chaos because of your animal nature. And this is one more reason why you were all born on earth and nowhere else. Earth has time. And he says you need a powerful form of governance that does not depend on you, that will not wait for you. It does not let you control it because you can't control time. So it is an independent tool of governance that the earth provides to keep you all in order. Beautiful, isn't it? So perfect, Cyrus says. So our advice to you is value time, respect it, and don't waste it through indifference and lack of awareness, and be grateful for it. That's our advice to you. So I asked Cyrus, I said, you have mentioned many times today the notion that there are more advanced civilizations than us that inhabit life-hosting cosmic bodies. In essence, they are less primitive than us. Can you describe what their more advanced nature includes? I said it will certainly give us something to look forward towards as a future goal in our journey. So Cyrus replied, he said, every creation in the universe is different, and I would avoid generalized comparisons between you and your more advanced counterparts. However, having said that, there are 3 points for you to consider. He said, these beings of an advanced nature have developed science to levels that have never been conceived on Earth. For example, their propulsion science enables them to travel across the galaxies at incredible speeds, like far greater than the speed of light, for example. Unlike the propulsion science on Earth today, which is based on the so-called scientific law of action and reaction are equal and opposite, following this so-called law severely restricts the speed at which you can travel in the cosmos. For example, recently your space research work identified a life-hosting body like the Earth in the cosmos that was several thousand times larger than the Earth. However, to get there with your current technology, it could take 100 years or more, visiting this intriguing body, unreachable in one lifetime. However, your counterparts in the universe have propulsion technology that is not restricted by primitive scientific laws. They operate on the basis of pure logic, unrestricted logic, with no self-imposed boundaries. So for their scientists, a small action can have a disproportionately large reaction. And this enables them to travel in minutes to places that would take you tens of years. So their advanced science is one aspect to be aware of. Secondly, these beings can visualize and think in far more than 3 dimensions. And they have a lot more than the 5 senses that beings of Earth possess. And hence their vision and span of processing information and knowledge is absolutely vast, well beyond what is imaginable on Earth. And the third aspect is their advanced access to intelligence, to the infinite intelligence. They can access infinite intelligence of creation itself, whereas most of you cannot. Why is that so, I asked. Cyrus replied, these beings are endowed with a consciousness and emotional intelligence that enables them to do the right thing with the knowledge that they draw from the infinite intelligence. This knowledge is extremely powerful, and they have access to it because abusing this knowledge is not in their nature, since they have no animal nature. There is no abuse. God forbid, if a human being were to be given access to such immensely powerful knowledge, what would happen? Maybe he or she could use it to create one of the most potent of bombs in the universe, far more devastating than all your current nuclear bombs combined. And such knowledge cannot be accessed by most on Earth, except for those who have advanced spiritually to a level where they can be trusted to be the right custodians of such powerful knowledge. So some of you can, when you have reached that level of spiritual advancement. And because such people have transcended their animal nature while still living on Earth, this is exceptional for those who achieve this spiritual growth. And he said that is also one of the beautiful opportunities that the Earth offers to you all, the opportunity for self-refinement and self-realization. So these 3 brief descriptions give you a snapshot of the difference between primitive and advanced civilizations at the cosmic level. Luminous steps in and says, okay, now let us move to the positive and most potent dimensions of your human nature, and how you can work with them and draw upon all the gifts that the Earth provides you with to transcend your animal nature and reach far greater levels of growth and evolution than even you can imagine. These positive aspects can well prove George Bernard Shaw wrong when he said, the Earth is a place where beings from other planets send their lunatics. He says, the lunacy comes from your animal nature. There he is correct. But where he is wrong is that he is missing the power that each human possesses to work with himself or herself and the faculties of the Earth, which are very powerful. So they can use these faculties to achieve the unimaginable. So that's where George Bernard Shaw is wrong. So here he said, here is the first powerful capacity that the earth provides for humanity to employ. One, the power of contrasts. Your world is almost entirely based on contrasts, he says. For every type of attribute, there exists a powerful opposite attribute. For example, where there is bad, there is also good. Or happiness, there is sadness and versus happiness. Kindness and compassion versus cruelty. Light versus darkness. Trust versus betrayal. And lots more. The list is endless. And he said these contrasts offer each human being the opportunity to use the power of opposites to grow and transcend animal nature. They give each one of you a clear choice. And how you exercise these choices of positive versus negative either leaves you backward and primitive or advanced and enlightened. These choices provide you the perfect basis of learning and gaining knowledge here. And Cyrus added, you must realize that some of these contrasts in themselves individually are extremely powerful on their own, such as, for example, the power of hope. This can change everything in your journey and lead you from height to height, just as despair would take you lower and lower. Then there is the power of trust and faith. You can achieve miracles with them. Similarly, the power of love can lead you to pure, unstoppable creativity. And you can build your own list of these powerful attributes. He says the earth makes all these incredible positive contrasts available to you to seize and grow with. It presents you with these contrast-based choices at every juncture in your journey. So what you become as a civilization depends on the quality of your choices. And this is why we said earlier that the wheel of correction has begun to turn, because the choices humanity has made so far have led you to this juncture. It's time for change. And when you leave this world, none of you can ever deny having been repeatedly offered choices that could have raised you to amazing heights. They are always being offered to you. That's your earth, which offers you the power of contrasts. And this cannot be found in many parts of the universe, Cyrus said. He said the next special attribute that beings of the earth have been blessed with is the power of intellect. And this is also a unique gift that you possess. Your minds are developed in stages that enable you to operate and survive in the three-dimensional world. You have the lower level mind, through which you make decisions for survival. I'm hungry, you go to the fridge, you get your food. Hunger satisfied, you find that's your lower level mind. Then you have a higher level mind that processes many inputs and you make bigger decisions. Where do I live? How do I get my security for my family, etc., etc. And then so the higher and lower level mind are at the material level, and then there is the intellect, which is your enlightened part of your mind that interfaces with the infinite intelligence, with the light of your Creator. It is the highest, most powerful part of you. And he said your intellect is your gateway to the infinite intelligence. The same infinite intelligence that your highly advanced counterparts in the cosmos are able to access, that very same infinite intelligence you can access through your intellect. Think about how powerful a gift your intellect is. On the one hand, you're beings that have transcended animal nature who can access this intelligence of creation. And on the other hand, you're beings with their animal nature, possessing this powerful gateway to the intellect. What does that tell you? It tells you that those of you who are able to use your intellect effectively not only have the opportunity to transcend your animal nature, you will do that anyway, but you can actually reach and even surpass your most advanced counterparts in the universe. You didn't think of that, did you? This is an incredible gift, Cyrus says. Use it. Please do use it, because the beings of the earth are amongst the few creation that possess this dual capacity. You are amongst the few. One of the reasons humanity was blessed with scriptures from the infinite intelligence is the fact that you have the power of intellect. You have the power of intellect to absorb the deeper spiritual dimensions of the scriptures, and you have the blessing of contrasts through which you can build a way of life based on the guidance of the scriptures. So humanity should consider itself very privileged. And this brings us to the third dimension, which is the dimension of spirituality, where the earth hosts you all in a manner that empowers your spiritual growth, if that is the path you choose. Cyrus says the earth itself is living, and it has special spiritual focal points that engage with the human intellect. And these are located in different parts of the earth, making the earth one of the very unique bodies in the cosmos. I said this is very true. I said in the year 2000 I wrote a book called The Alakansera Rise Again, where I wrote about these 7 focal points on earth, each one possessing specific capacities. And as a shift group, we all visited these places and meditated there and experienced the living powers of Mother Earth. The first focal point was located in Montserrat in Spain, which is the umbilical cord of the planet, where all birth energies originate from. And then there's a specific point, the second one in the Grand Savannah in Venezuela, where the river Orinoco meets other rivers and splits. And this is where the circles of unity exist, which are the unifying forces of all creation on the earth. There is a place in the Grand Savannah. And then third is a very beautiful place in the Great Rift Valley, representing the memory of the planet. And this is one of the oldest remains of human civilization exists there, because all the knowledge that has ever manifested on the planet is focused in the earth, not in our minds, in the earth there, because it's a living organism. The fourth is at the top of Mount Teide in Tenerife, which is the volcanic place where all the elements, the 4 elements of the elements of life on earth are expressed: earth, wind, water, and fire. They are all there, the 4 elements. Then the fifth one is the island of Aitutaki in the South Pacific, where the nutritive energies of the sun are focused on earth. It's the energetic connection point between the sun and the earth, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen throughout my life's journeys. The sixth is the Grand Canyon in the USA, and there's a specific spot in the Grand Canyon where all the hidden energetic dimensions, and I call it hidden because we don't see them, are present, and they intersect at this point. Very powerful place. And this shows us how that there is so much more to this beautiful earth than we realize, and we had a meditation there. And finally, there is a plateau, a day's walk away from the base camp on the Mount Everest, where the earth connects with the universe and its intelligence. This is the connection point of earth and all her sisters out there. So these are the 7 focal points, and then there are other many sacred places on earth. So between 2001 and 2012, our shift group visited each of these 7 focal points, from where we had held global meditations based on the theme and character of each of the focal points. You can see pictures of these 7 points on our website, actually. So Cyrus says, there are many sacred places on earth. What does that tell you? It tells you that the earth itself has a life, a soul, and its own intelligence, independent of you. And these are synchronized with each one of you at that level of your spiritual self. And they can be experienced by beings of earth through their spirituality. So our advice to you is live with spirituality. Think spirituality. Meditate and seek the source of your creation through spirituality, and transcend your animal nature and rise to levels that excel beyond your advanced counterparts in the universe. At the start of our discussion today, we gave you the analogy of a student wanting to master advanced quantum physics, and it hypothetically took the student 3 lifetimes to get there. Well, here's the good news, he says. With spirituality and the power of contrast, you can get there and much further beyond in this very first lifetime, in this very lifetime. You can actually complete your journey in this one lifetime. You can all achieve this through your spirituality, which is inherently linked to the spirit of the earth. So when the native Indians talk about the spirit, this is what it is. It is the spirit of the earth, and you are all inherently interconnected with it, making this earth the perfect home for you all to live, experience, grow, and accomplish. Lumina said, well, I hope you all now have a good flavor of why the earth was chosen as your home in this lifetime. You could not attain such an exalted life with such amazing potentials anywhere else in the cosmos.